time to piss some people off. Whatever opinion I give on the show is going to be disliked. Whether I say I like it or I dislike it, people are not going to like the opinion that I give on the show. So what I need to do is give my honest opinion on the show. And my honest opinion, unfortunately, is the least popular opinion, which is that I like this show. However, I will say it's very flawed. It's a very flawed show that makes a lot of silly mistakes. But ultimately, by the finishing line, becomes a show that I like and I want to see more of. Essentially, my experience with the show was the first 2 episodes I didn't like. I wasn't overly into. I wouldn't say I hated it, but I certainly didn't think much of the first 2 episodes, particularly going into it with the expectations that I had, given that the budget was so insanely high. The first 2 episodes having the effects that they had, the overall set design, and everything about the show just felt like so weak compared to the budget. So the expectancy played a big part in that, and unfortunately it just didn't meet it. The 3rd episode was bizarre, and in a bad way, unfortunately. Why you would do a flashback episode 3 episodes into a show, I would never understand as long as I live. Usually you would do a flashback episode towards the end of a season, or even towards the end of a show, or you would have it open the show to give context to what's happening. What you wouldn't do is place it just after a couple of episodes, particularly a couple of episodes of a show with so many characters. This show has a lot of characters, and for the 3rd episode to home in and give the backstory on 2 of them, we don't know nearly enough about these 2 people, and we certainly don't care nearly enough about these 2 people for a flashback episode to matter. So to create one at this point in the show was just bizarre and really missed the landing. I almost backed out on the show after that. But I'm glad I didn't, because episode 4 I thought was an improvement. This was when I began to actually slightly care about the characters. Finally, these characters mattered to me in a semblance of a way. I actually began to care about the story. Excellent. Episode 4 wasn't overly eventful, but it certainly made me appreciate the characters a lot more. It's probably my favorite episode up until that point. And then episode 5 hit, and episode 5 is when everything changes in the show. It is fantastic, and if you don't like episode 5 and you consider yourself a Star Wars fan, then I'm sorry, but either you're not actually a Star Wars fan, or you're just hating the show because it's cool to hate. And it is cool to hate. It's a tremendous episode. A fantastic episode, let's say, with great combat. It's dark, bold, gritty. It's willing to take lives. The theming is brilliant. The sets are fantastic. It all takes place across one night, and that's brilliant. I love that. Big reveals, and the reveals are handled well. I thought it was a really great episode and really put me in positive stead for the show. The following episode was okay. It was a continuation, a lot like episode 4, where it's not too much happened here, but I'm continuing to care about the characters. And then, oddly enough, episode 7 was the weirdest one yet. Bizarre. I don't know if I've ever seen such a weird decision made in a TV show in my entire life. I really don't get it. But it was a retelling of the flashback from episode 3. What the hell, dude? You have 8 episodes at your disposal? I can't even speak straight.
Balls. 2 guys holding hands. Dude's butt. Clay Aiken.
You have 8 episodes at your disposal, and 2 of them are the same flashback episodes retold in different ways. It was bizarre. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a better retelling of the same story. It was darker, there was actual combat this time, and I did find it a lot more interesting than episode 3, but it was just a nothing burger of an episode, and to have that as the penultimate episode was completely odd. Fortunately, with the final episode, the finale of the show, they actually pulled it back. It's a great episode, a good send-off, again, some great combat. Very good combat here, actually. They nailed that again. A really good fight, and that's exactly what you want from this show. Some good reveals. One character I'm not going to spoil it for you, but there is a character that you see, a cameo, blew my mind, and it led to internet mystery. Like, people really wanted to know who this is, and it's opened up this Pandora's box, and there are clips of it and people talking about it. That's what I want from Star Wars. To me, that's Star Wars, and that's Star Wars at its height, and I'm so happy that I get to experience that again. People know who it is, but it's just like opened up this box of like, what's going to happen, what is going to happen next, and that's really fantastic. And if you manage to avoid that spoiler, then well done, and you're really going to enjoy that. It's just a tiny little snippet, but it's awesome. I do think that they spend a little bit too much time saying goodbye at the end of this season, and on sort of like tearing up and what have you, like shots of people looking out to the sea and things like that. A little bit too much of that for the finale, but aside from that, a great send-off with a lot of meat on the bone and a lot of questions asked. I mean, this show is ultimately, more than anything, about raising questions about the Jedi and like their virtuosity. How good really are they, and how sneaky are they? As a Halo fan, there's a lot of this with Oni going on right now, where with the original stuff they were categorically the good guys, but now we're beginning to question it. I love muddying the waters like that, and I love exploring muddy waters like that, and I love the fact that the show doesn't just come away with Jedi good, Sith. There's nothing wrong with Seth. Jedi good, Sith bad. I like that. I like that it came away from a more complex message than that. That's fantastic. But do I think the writing sometimes was very bad? Yes. Do I think that the writing was ever good? Occasionally. Do I think the characters were good? By the end of the show, yes. At the start of the show, no. I think the addition of a couple of characters really helped. Soul, I think it's Soul, from the start of the show, really came into his own, became one of my favorite characters in the show, and I began to like Osha and May over time. Are they my favorite Star Wars characters? No. Do I think they were given enough? No. Do I think they were written particularly well? Not really, but they were given a good universe with which to exist, and I appreciate it. I think it's time to put a score on this one. Yes, I know, you're going to be mad. I think it's a fair score. I want to see more of the show. I think it's very ironic right now. We're simultaneously seeing trending is Renew Acolyte, and at the same time it has a 3.6 on IMDb. That kind of sums up the show. People, they want to see more, they're excited to see more. I really want to see more because I want to see what they do with a certain character and certain other characters. But on the other side of the coin, you got people who had already made their minds up with episode 1, and the fact that the episode Night, which is a tremendous episode of TV, has like a 6 on IMDb. I mean, it's ridiculous, which is why this review is kind of redundant, to be honest with you. I don't usually do bits after my score like this, but this review is almost redundant because everyone made their mind up on this show. Everyone did, and I guess so have I. Well, I'll see you all later.
The PlayStation's only $149, and you can also get leading titles.